that have joined already. Oh, so yes, we are recording this for future use and reference. So welcome everyone to our Hunger Free America's 2022 MLK Servathon. Just so you know, you're in the right place. This is the workshop titled Community Connections, the Importance and Best Practices of Youth Civic Engagement. Hopefully that's what you signed up for. And if so, you're in the right place. While we wait for others to come in, and we have, it looked like we had about 20 participants sign up for this session. So, you know, there will probably be a few that aren't able to make it last minute, but we'll get going probably at about 5 after. So another 3.5, 4 minutes. In the meantime, for those of you who are in the room, please feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself. You know, no real requirements, but if you want to put your name, maybe if you're affiliated with an organization, where you're located, feel free to put your preferred pronouns in there and your favorite food, any or all of that, whatever you feel comfortable with. My name is Jim Wengler. I'm with Hunger Free America. I'll give myself a little introduction. Oh, I see. We just got a note from Becca Denise. She can't seem to change her profile name. Is that maybe something on the security that you let people do? If not, it's not the end of the world, as long as people can still enter information into the chat. Oh, that was, yeah, Becca just messaged me, Denise, saying people aren't able to change their profile name. So welcome everyone as you trickle in. I see we have I think 12 people total right now. We're going to give it a few more minutes, let others join. This is, as you hopefully can see on the screen, our workshop as part of our annual MLK Servathon with Hunger Free America. And this is the Community Connections Workshop, the importance and best practices of youth civic engagement. For those of you just coming in, please feel free to use the chat. As you see on the screen there, you can enter your name, if you're affiliated with an organization, preferred pronouns, where you're located, and favorite food. So as I said, any of those things, all of them would be great. My name is Jim Wengler. I'm with Hunger Free America. We have Carol Lagos, who I'll introduce, with us as well from United Activities Unlimited. And our highly skilled tech person, Denise Fernandez from Hunger Free America, as well, is working the behind the scenes stuff. So I have 2:03.5. We'll give it another 1.5 minutes and we will get going at 2:05. And this is a 1-hour workshop. So from what Carol tells me, we'll have about, her presentation will run about 30 minutes or so. So there'll be plenty of time for questions and answers afterwards, after her presentation. But I think she's also, as she'll say, going to have an interactive presentation where she'll be asking perhaps some questions of you all during her presentation. So Denise, were you able to change that setting so people, if they wanted to, could change their profile, their name?
To be honest, Jim, I'm not sure how to go about doing that.
Okay, all right, that's not, yeah, it's not a big deal. We have people who can, who are entering things in the chat. So I'll just give one last pitch for those of you just coming on. We are, I think, still at 12 total participants. This is the workshop on community connections, the importance and best practices of youth civic engagement. We're going to get started in just about another minute or so. If you haven't already, please feel free to enter some info in the chat. Where you're located, if you're affiliated with an organization, your preferred pronouns, and your favorite food. I guess I should do that as well. Well, I'm just babbling, so I'll just talk instead of typing. But well, I'm out here in Bend, Oregon. I don't know, anyone else from the West Coast on with us today? Okay, here we are, 11:05 my time, 11:05, 2:05 for you all. All right, let me get my other document up and going here, and we will get started. So you're going to hear me talking for about another 5 minutes or so, for better or worse. I'm just going to read some intro information, and then I will hand things over to Carol. So thank you everyone for being here today. Really happy to have you here as part of our annual Martin Luther King Serve-a-thon, which we've been doing for I think about the past 8 or 10 years here at Hunger Free America. So I'm going to start off with a land acknowledgement context, which is something that we do at the beginning of all of our workshops and webinars this weekend. And it goes like this. This gives a little background. So we utilize a land acknowledgement not only to acknowledge the historical legacy of colonialism, but also to acknowledge non-Western ways of knowing that holistically link mind, body, and spirit, and link the human and non-human in ways of knowing. We are acknowledging that the space we are in, the land we are on, are part of who we are and how we know the world. It also allows us to raise questions about whose knowledge gets to be named, whose knowledge gets honored, whose knowledge gets erased. It is an acknowledgement that the space we inhabit shapes what we know and what we consider to be knowledge, how knowledge is constructed, what is legitimate knowledge, and who has such knowledge. So I'll just give a quick intro on myself. As I mentioned, my name is Jim Wengler. I'm the Director of Programs here at Hunger Free America. I've been with the organization since way back in 2003, when we were a much smaller group called New York City Coalition Against Hunger. Over the years, we've grown a lot. We have national programming. Now, in my current role, I oversee a few of our different departments, but most of my time at HFA was spent overseeing our benefits access department, which Denise, who's our tech on the scene today, helping out, is now the director of. And that's the department that directly connects eligible people, not only in New York City, but through different programs around the country with nutrition benefits, primarily SNAP and the WIC program. And I'm talking to you today from the physical space of Bend, Oregon, where I moved out to a couple years ago, and I work remotely now. I would like to acknowledge the land on which I currently reside, which historically was that of the Confederated Tribe of Warm Springs Indigenous peoples. And we deliver the land acknowledgement to acknowledge the historical legacy of colonialism by honoring and paying respect to the land, which was taken by conquest, along with the domination of the people who inhabited the land and the imposition of white supremacy. We do it to raise greater public consciousness of Native sovereignty and cultural rights as a small step toward equitable relationship and reparation. We encourage the participants on the call today, all of you, to privately acknowledge the land that sustains and supports you, wherever you may be. And if you don't already know your area's history, we have provided a link in the chat, which Denise is going to put in there if she hasn't already, to learn more about the Indigenous people that live or lived in your area. And feel free to go to that either now or after the workshop to look that up. It's a really useful tool. So one more time, welcome to everybody. If you're new to Hunger Free America, just quick background. We are a nonpartisan, national nonprofit building the movement to enact the policies and programs needed to end domestic hunger and to ensure that all Americans have sufficient access to nutritious food. And we do this through both our direct service and advocacy work, both of which we feel strengthen each other. Denise is going to put another link in the chat, which is our National Hunger Atlas and annual survey report. Every year we do a report on the status of food insecurity around the country. It used to be just a New York City-based report, but now it's around the country. Our work to end hunger continues to be vital. There's no denying that hunger and food insecurity swelled during the pandemic, with estimates of over 50 million individuals being affected during the height of the crisis, and that food insecurity was a problem before the health and economic crisis. However, according to recent research that we published, the United States was able to alleviate some of the greatest impacts with increased and expanded federal food and cash aid, seeing a 38% drop in food insufficiency when these programs were deployed. So they really made a huge impact. The positive impact these programs have on reducing hunger and poverty illustrate the power of policy choices and why our work and our collective work as advocates is so important. And we must also make space to acknowledge the continued racial disparity in domestic hunger. While all types of low-income families are suffering, the data shows that people of color are disproportionately impacted at higher rates. Research from the USDA shows that in 2020, just under 22% of Black respondent households experienced food insecurity, as did over 17% of Hispanic respondent households. And in contrast, just around 7% of white respondent households experienced food insecurity. So you clearly see that difference. As the global pandemic and demands for racial justice continue to be heard, we must continue to uplift MLK's message of justice. For over 15 years, Hunger Free America has honored Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy by coordinating service events and volunteer action, supporting long-term solutions to hunger. And we hope that volunteers will learn something new today, take action in the fight against hunger, as well as take away some ideas on how to continue working towards and supporting a more equitable community. And before I turn it over to Carol, I would just like to introduce some group norms today for our session to frame the dialogue. A safe space is a brave space. We are called to create a brave space where we accept the likelihood that we will be uncomfortable when investigating issues of race, privilege, and oppression and our roles within them. Please work to recognize your privileges. Use this space to recognize and investigate your privileges. For example, class, gender, sexual orientation, and ability. Honor the different experiences we all bring to this space. We invite you to take risks, lean into discomfort. We are all in process. Challenge yourself to contribute, even if it is not perfectly formulated. Actively listen. Use your energy to listen to what is said before thinking about how to respond. And notice when defensiveness and denial arise. Finally, if anyone has any additional norms to add, please feel free to insert them into the chat. So now on to the main programming. As I say, the feature presentation. I'd like to introduce our co-host, who's Carol Lagos. She is from United Activities Unlimited. Carol is a youth development professional who has served New York City youth for nearly 10 years. As a paraprofessional, ELL teacher, substance abuse prevention and intervention specialist, counselor, job readiness counselor, and project-based learning facilitator, Ms. Lagos has served some of the city's most high needs and vulnerable young people, always striving to highlight each individual's unique personal power and value. Ms. Lagos has demonstrated an expertise for authentically engaging young people in exploring and addressing real issues impacting their lives and communities, and she's excited to share those best practices with you. So without further ado, I turn it over to Carol. And again, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope we have a good, productive session today. Carol?
Yes, I always have to remember to unmute because anyone that knows me knows I always stay muted. Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to thank you all for being here. I know it's a holiday and probably had other things to do, but you signed up and joined us, so it's very much appreciated. I'm going to share a presentation with you all. Okay, so we're discussing today civic engagement, not only because of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, but how it is relevant to the work that UAU does as well. So today we'll be doing the purpose and the overview of the organization that I'm affiliated with. We'll discuss who Dr. Martin Luther King was and his legacy. And again, as I said earlier, the relevance to global citizenship and civic engagement. I'll also open the floor to dialogue with all of you and discuss what your next roles may be after witnessing the work that we do with our youth. And of course, we'll also do some questions and answers. So before I begin, I just want to do a quick icebreaker. In honor of Dr. King, I would like for you to take a look at this quote and reflect on what it means to you. And the quote reads as follows: "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" You can drop your answers in the chat, or you can unmute if you'd like. And I would love to hear what it is that it means to you. I'm not sure if any answers coming into the chat. I apologize also for the background noise. I live in Brooklyn, New York, near a train station, so you may hear real noises in the back as trains are passing by. So again, I'm asking what it is that this quote means to you all. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Okay, so I see some answers coming through. It helps you reflect on how your actions positively or negatively impact others. Thank you, Sophia. It's a good reminder. Questions begin every day. Yes. Roxanne says, my life has meaning because I care about other people. Very good. Yes. So, it's important sometimes to just reflect on what it is that we do for ourselves, not only ourselves, but also for others. So here at UAU, our mission is we are a community-based agency that provides comprehensive social services, educational supports, enrichment activities, prevention services, counseling and workforce development training to inspire, transform, and empower individuals of all ages. We began as an after-school program in the 70s during a financial crisis, when educators and community activists helped raise funding and UAU was born. Now we are here 4 decades later with a multitude of other services such as workforce development, community centers, prevention, and anything else that our youth can be a part of. So Dr. King was a civil rights activist in the 1950s and the 60s. He led nonviolent protests to fight for the rights of all people, including African Americans. His hope was that America and the world could come from a society where race would not impact a person's civil rights. He is considered one of the greatest orators of modern times, and his speeches still inspire many to this day. I'm going to share a clip with you, and I would just like you to listen to it.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. And when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
So now, after hearing his very important part of his I Have a Dream speech, I would like to ask you all, after listening to his speech, would you say his message was realistic or idealistic, and why? And there's also 2 other questions which you can answer. What challenges did people face during his time that still persist today? And what are some ways we can bring Dr. King's dream to fruition? I'll give you all a couple of minutes to reflect on those questions and drop them in the chat. So begin with the first one. Would you say his message was more realistic or idealistic, and why? So Kiana says, and I hope I said your name right, realistic because we are seeing some of the changes in our everyday life. That is true. We have seen some movement of the needle, as we say with our participants, right? Because we may not do everything all at once, but if we move the needle a moment at a time, then you will see some changes. And yes, you're right. There are some changes that we have seen today from when Dr. King was around. What challenges did people face during his time that still persist today? Racism and inequality. Okay, thank you, Vicki. Racial disparities in policing, maybe a combination of both, which is often the case with visionary leaders like MLK. Yes, thank you. And what are some ways we can bring Dr. King's dream to fruition? I'll give you all a moment, and then I'll continue, and I'll show you how it is that UAU tries to contribute. Okay, thank you. Well, there's accountability for those in power and better education for youth on these issues. I agree. So here at UAU, we try to do our part, right, to bring his dream to fruition by affording youth the opportunities for internships and gain experience into entry-level positions within organizations. How many times have you applied to a place and they say, oh, thank you, but we're looking for someone with experience? And to yourself, I know I thought it to myself, well, I don't have that experience yet, so how is it that I'm going to do that if I don't have the chance, right? So that's why we are affiliated with SYEP and the Work, Learn, Grow program. Within this program, the youth of ages 14 to 24 do just that. They gain experience by interning at several organizations, and they gain transferable skills such as leadership, teamwork, active listening. They learn how to build resumes, send emails. They have informational technology, developmental skills as well. So that's how we are trying to do our part. We also have college access for all in middle schools, because even at the age between 6th and 8th grade, we would like for youth to start thinking about their futures and where it is that they would like to go to college. So with this program, as I said, children between 6th grade and 8th grade can go and visit college campuses once a year. Because of the pandemic, it's been virtual, but still it is very important. And we have community centers as well. I just want to acknowledge Etra's answer by pitching in and using our gifts and talents to support youth. Yes. So global citizenship and civic engagement, which is something that Dr. King spoke of and we as well try to practice. A global citizen is someone who sees themselves as part of an emerging sustainable world community and whose actions support the values and practices of that community. Many people today identify with being global citizens as more and more aspects of their lives become globalized. Which, you know, we like to go by that tag, think globally, but act locally, right? Perhaps we do want to make a difference. We don't know where to begin. So you can try to make differences right within your communities, working individually and collectively to make a difference in the lives of people in your community by addressing issues that are of public concern. And as you see here in the diagram, we all educate our participants as well. We show them what it is to be engaged civically. There's a public issue, so you then inquire about it. You clarify the issue, you analyze it, you identify which options, which paths can you take to try to address this issue. You synthesize, you act together, and then you implement your action plan. Thank you, Roxanne. Yes, encouraging people to believe in themselves and pursue opportunities they would never imagine, know for themselves without support and encouragement. So I want to share with you some more discussion questions, right? Who would you consider to be a global citizen? I also have this other question that says, where would you find a global citizen? And like I said, if you think globally and act locally, here is a picture of youth that is affiliated with UAU, because in 2021, and I'll explain it further, they partnered with Staten Island Borough's president to educate and begin the beautification of Staten Island. So this is a picture of that. And then, are you a global citizen? To be a global citizen, you must understand we were born of this world, protect our country, the world, when called upon to do so, stand up and defend against the injustices we see, understand the interconnectedness, respect and value diversity, and then take action in meaningful ways, as I showed you within the civic engagement diagram. But then you're like, well, I want to make a difference, but I don't know where to start. What can we do? So I want to share with you this video of a young man named Michael Platt.
I want to share with y'all a message that I believe with all my heart, is that people who are small can solve big problems. One group that I specifically think can make the biggest change is kids. People underestimate the power of kids in general. They certainly underestimate our power to do something about big problems. We can do a lot, even though it seems at times that we only want to do nothing in particular. I admit that kids give adults the idea when we say things like, all I want to do is play video games, I'd rather sit in my room on my phone, school is trash, and other foul is fair and fair is foul nonsense. But the world would be a 100% better place if kids were involved in the important things. I mean, we're the ones being affected by it the most. Take gun control laws in relation to school safety, for example. It's the kids who are getting killed, and we should have a say in these decisions because we're the ones who are being affected by it. Adults think that kids don't have anything meaningful to contribute. Kids think that there are no opportunities for them to contribute anything meaningful. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example in your speech, life, love, faith, and purity. I was with a group of kids when I first heard this quote, and I instantly loved it because it's a roadmap to kids on how to do something we aren't usually encouraged to do. Lead. Long story short, the world needs kids to lead with our speech, talking about it, life, putting our time into it, love, having a passion for it, faith, unwavering belief, and purity, transparent action. Then adults will stop staring into their phones and help us conquer the world. Change the world.
That was Michael Platt, a young man whose words are very profound. And I always say sometimes it needs to come from the mouths of babes, right? We have to listen to our youth when they speak. So regarding social justice, it's the belief that everyone should have a fair distribution of resources. Everyone deserves equal social, economic, and healthcare rights, as well as food security and access to quality food. So with our, I apologize for that. With our youth, we did this. It's called project-based learning, where it's youth-led. And so they developed projects using the civic engagement outline that I showed you, things that are of public concern. They worked together. They researched it. They came up with options on how to spread awareness or try to bring solutions to it. And these were the results. So one of the issues that was on our youth's mind and people whom they spoke with was mental health. And they created this small presentation, but I'll show it to you.
Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It could also be called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It affects how you feel, think, and behave, and could lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. The symptoms of depression are feeling of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, and hopelessness, angry outbursts, having trouble thinking, loss of interest in your favorite things, and unexplained physical problems such as back pain or any type of body pain. If you feel depressed, make an appointment to see your doctor or mental health professional as soon as you can. If you're reluctant to seek treatment, talk to a friend or loved one, any health care professional, a faith leader, or someone else you trust. The causes of depression are biological differences, brain chemistry, and inherited traits. Factors that seem to increase the risk of developing or triggering depression include certain personality traits such as low self-esteem and being too dependent, self-critical, or pessimistic. Traumatic or stressful events such as physical or sexual abuse, the death or loss of a loved one, a difficult relationship, or financial problems. Blood relatives with a history of depression, bipolar disorder,
So this was created, as I said, to spread awareness. So this was their solution to spread awareness to other youth, right, other adolescents. And they would probably have gone on their social media page so that people can view it and spread awareness that way. They also created a flyer here. And it said, let's clear stigma about mental health, because that was a topic that also came up, was the stigma of mental health amongst certain populations and groups. So this is what they did, and they shared a story, the impacts of stigma, and how it is that we can help. Another issue that was brought up was women's rights. And so one of our cohorts also created something for women's rights.
I paid my dues, time after time.
We're Group 1 and is a completed project. Our account name is Let's Talk SA 2021, and in our bio, we made sure to include where we are based, an encouraging quote, and a link tree to provide resources. This is the first post we created, and I think this is perfect for establishing our account because it not only provides definitions, but it also addresses statistics, stigmas, and provides resources without skipping a single beat.
So that was
This is the
created,
second post we
and
created,
a little more.
and is very clear and concise, as well as provides resources and statistics. And finally, there's the third post we created, and I believe this post is successful in providing statistics and combating stigmas. And that's it. We're going to continue to post on our account so that we can inform others on the perils of sexual harassment and sexual assault.
This social media account was made to help spread awareness to people who have been affected by sexual harassment. I want to influence people and try to get others to make a change in this public issue. There are many different types of sexual harassment. It mainly reflects on...
So you get the idea. Our youth is heavily involved when it comes to project-based learning, and it's basically we are there to facilitate and see what it is that their ideas, how they are being thought of, and then they implement it and carry it out themselves. We also target environmental issues, and as I said earlier, in 2021, UAU formed a partnership with Staten Island's borough president to clean up communities and educate residents on the ongoing effort for beautification and raising awareness of littering and illegal trash disposal, which is where the photo earlier came from. That was our youth out there cleaning up their communities and trying to make Staten Island a more beautiful place than it already is. When speaking of racial justice, because global citizenship is more like the umbrella, then there's a civic engagement, what you can do, and the public concern, which is social justice and racial justice. It is a systemic, fair treatment of all people from all races. This would result in equitable opportunities and outcomes. And what I'm about to show you is something that was also created by our youth, and you'll hear some singing in there, and it's one of our participants. First, I'm going to share a poem with you that was written by one of our young ladies, and it is because of the BLM movement. So she wrote, BLM is a common phrase people use but can never be shown. I rise as a Black woman and afraid to see my brothers in ways I can't imagine. Cops just going around killing people, and that is how we lost George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many more. It still has me wondering if the government police officials really care. Every day, people are getting killed by cops and no justice ever being served, so I should say. Cops get their freedom and we don't. And still, we rise. We need justice, and police need to go to jail without bail. And still, we rise. Instead, we face injustice. So this was her perspective, her opinion. We don't ever try to invalidate anyone's feelings. So from here, we kept speaking about what issues can we address. And so it was the racial justice, but also gun violence prevention. So this is something that our youth created. And as I said, you're going to hear someone singing, and it's actually one of our participants.
Is my skin open? Does it hurt and threaten you? If so, then why is that? What can my skin possibly do? I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of losing now. I'm tired of my people scoring and bruising up.
like you go in there and they have all their makeup and their stuff out on the counter and everything. And then if somebody's missing something, they'll come over to you first, and they will say to me, did you pick up something by mistake? And I would say no, But it was always, if they're missing something, they're gonna come to you, because that's who they think is stealing it.
Businesses need to do a better job of conveying to their employees that they won't be retaliated against if they report toxic behavior. If employees turn a blind eye, it's believed that it will ultimately come back to haunt them once word gets out.
When you have to come in and you don't know whether you're going to get your promotion or not, even though you're getting higher marks than the people that already got theirs and you didn't get yours yet, it's like that messes your mind up, I don't even think they realized that what they was doing, because it was something that's already in them, and they're definitely gonna continue to live the way they're living, and it's an automatic thing, with history.
In the United Kingdom,
I apologize, it cut off. But yeah, so that was something that was done with our participants as well, and they chose to interview someone and get information from that person. So now let's chat. So based on Dr. King's legacy and the work that you are doing with our youth, how can you play a role? What do you think you can do to build upon the work that you saw today by our youth? And of course, you're more than welcome to drop your answers in the chat. Sharing and uplifting their voices. Yes, thank you, Will. And it all starts just from listening, right? As I said, listen to our youth sometimes, because very often they have issues that perhaps we want to discuss as well, concerns. Help raising awareness of certain issues through social media platforms. Yes, thank you, Vicky, absolutely. And that is something, as I said, that our youth did. They spread awareness digitally, virtually. They created presentations, they created posts, and this was all done actually virtually because of the pandemic. Had it been in person, perhaps it would have been a different story as far as what it is that they did out there. Okay, so that said, I want to thank you all for your time, and I'm going to turn it back to you now to see if you have any questions that I can answer or that we can all answer. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carol, for that presentation today. And again, thanks everybody for taking part. So yeah, we have a little over 20 minutes left. So it would be great to use this time as productively as possible. I have, for questions for Carol or just discussion amongst us, I have one question, Carol, that I'd like to, if it's okay to just start things off with while others might be thinking of questions. So I guess first is just a couple facts about the organization. So I know you're based in Staten Island. I think when we were chatting before the workshop started, I don't know if it was Stephanie might have mentioned that you were looking to expand to the Bronx. But I guess my first question is for those here who might either themselves be youth looking to get involved with your organization or refer youth that they know to you and your organization. So if you could just cover a couple things. What's the sort of target area, geographically? And I know now maybe a lot is happening remotely, so maybe that's not such a concern. But are youth from around the city able to get involved? What's the best way for them to get involved? Contacting you directly, or is there a specific email or registration or something? Is any kind of referral needed? So just, I guess, if you could talk a little bit about, and also what's the age range? It was a question I had about your youth participants as well. So if you don't mind just addressing some of that to get started.
Yes, of course. So the age range that we particularly work with are 14 to 24 as far as SYP and the Work, Learn, Grow program. And we are Staten Island based, but we also have areas of the Bronx and a couple of locations in Brooklyn that we are working with. And although things are virtual, we actually have trying to work with the Bronx Community Foundation because of that tragic fire in the Bronx. And since we have participants out there in the Bronx, we thought it'd be a wonderful idea for them to gain experience just by volunteering and see, well, how it is that we can help in this tragic time. As far as who it is that they can reach out to, I can actually put it in the chat. SYEP is a New York City program, so it's open to all in New York City. UAU works with Staten Island, Bronx, and a couple locations in Brooklyn.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. So you're going to add to the chat the best
Yes.
way for people to get involved. All right, with that, I'll open it up for any of the other participants who might have questions for Carol. I guess, Carol, either people, if they want to unmute to just ask a question live,
Sure.
or type in the chat, whatever people feel most comfortable with.
Okay. And this is whom you can contact at, it should say .org, but long email. And so that is whom you can contact at UAU for any other, if you want to volunteer, anything like that, or career opportunities as well.
Carol, I have a question. In terms of like the role that parents or guardians play with the youth in the program and resources that are available for parents, or essentially like guardians, how do they play a role into the program?
So we actually have something that's called like family services, where they can be a part of that as well. We have family prevention. We have Fatherhood Matters. We sometimes hold like it's like a dance for fathers, because it's important, especially within our communities where there's like a stigma or a stereotype that fathers aren't around. So we try to implement that as well. Then we have community centers, after school centers, and other types of programs that they can join as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Again, if anyone has any other questions for Carol, feel free to unmute and ask away, or put in the chat as well. Carol, while others might be thinking of their questions, just one other to ask. What would you say would be the best actions that people could do to best support the mission and your organization? Those who are older than 24, for example, or not necessarily in need of services, but want to help out in some way. What are the best ways for people to do that?
So I will also drop that information in the chat. As always, donations are always wonderful, so we can keep the program up and running. And also, just if you would like to just volunteer your time as well. As I said, something is like the Bronx Community Foundation or the environmental protectors in Staten Island to help clean up and beautification. You can do that as well. Right. I'm going to drop that information in the chat also.
Are you also looking for volunteers to actually work with youth, either one-on-one or helping with skills building, workshops, things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so there are career opportunities as well, and you can actually find that under UAU on Indeed, and also contact the email that I had posted earlier if you're looking for career opportunities or anything of that nature.
Okay, are those, just to clarify, so that's career opportunities, but in terms of volunteers?
Oh, yes, we're always looking for volunteers as well. We have the community fridge program also, where we distribute food to areas as well.
Great, okay, thank you.
And Carol, I have another question relating to MLK and the youth. I mean, it's been quite some time since the days of MLK. Do you see that MLK's legacy resonates really well with our youth in terms of like the literature, or how do they see MLK and like current advocates also as well?
So they take his words, to heart. because they see that someone pointed out earlier, some of the issues that were during his time are ongoing and still today. And so they want to make a difference. They want to help out. They want to spread awareness. They want to become activists. So the generation of today, like they get a bad rep, but they actually do want to be very much involved.
And also, Carol, so while we're waiting, if there's any other questions coming in, I'll just take a minute to announce that we do have a brief survey that Denise is going to put in a link in the chat for a very brief post-event survey that is really helpful for folks to fill out if they can, just to give us some feedback. And then I will also mention that we have in 15 minutes, so after the end of this session, so at 3:15 Eastern time, we have I think it's our final community phone banking event of the day, volunteer event to increase food access. Be calling lists of people, there'll be a brief training at the beginning of the session to share information about food resources. And Denise, maybe you could put those in the chat as well. There's also a link there to donate to the organization United Activities Unlimited, and to us as well, Hunger Free America. So any of those options are of interest to you, Denise will put those links in the chat, and yeah, so please feel free to take advantage of those as well. So we do still have a little time yet left, but you know, if there aren't any other questions or comments, we don't need to go the full time till 3. But I do want to just give another minute or two to people who still might be formulating a question or a comment for Carol. Okay, so yeah, Denise, when you have a chance to, I guess, just throw in those other 2 links. I think you've got the one in there, our donation link. Okay, great. I see you have.
And I believe I put did I put the phone banking one?
So you put ours in twice. So yeah, if you could put the UAU link in there. And okay, and that last link Denise just went there, the Zoom link, that's the one to the phone banking service event that I mentioned. And did Carol, I thought I saw.
Yeah, the United Activities.
Oh, you put that one first. Sorry. Okay, yeah. I didn't scroll back. Didn't scroll back up. Okay, so they are all there. Just give folks a minute if they want to copy any of those links before we wrap up. Fantastic. So Carol, just again, since we're waiting for just another minute or two to see if anyone has any final thoughts or comments. When I didn't, you might have mentioned, and if you did, I'm sorry. When did your organization get started?
In 1977.
Oh wow!
You've been around crisis. Yes,
longer
than 4 decades.
You did. Sorry, you mentioned that in the beginning, right? Okay, yes. You've been around longer than we have.
Okay.
We got our start in the early 80s. And are you part of any national network of youth serving organizations, or is it strictly a New York City based program?
It's New York City based.
It is. Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to guess that there aren't any other questions or comments for Carol or for us at Hunger Free America. Oh wait, I just see a new message. Oh, hey, thank you. Okay, thank you. So Carol, I want to say thanks again. Denise, great job on the tech side. If anyone wants to get more information about either Carol's organization, United Activities Unlimited, or ours, Hunger Free America, You have, I think, enough ways to get in touch with us now. You've got the links. You know, obviously we both have websites, but yeah, we both are always looking for volunteers. We have listed on our volunteer opportunities throughout the year, not just on Martin Luther King Day or weekend, and other ways to get involved you can find on our website as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. Carol, thank you so much again for the presentation and the great information. And everyone have a good rest of your Martin Luther King Day, and we'll see you all soon, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you all for the work that you do as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks. Bye-bye.